The triple suns of Drexus. 9 hung low in the sky, bleeding orange across the horizon as the jungle exhaled its twilight breath, moist, hot, and humming with alien life. A shimmering haze hovered over the spiny foliage and twisted tree trunks, giving the landscape a feverish quality. The Galactic assassins stood atop a jagged ridge, their armor glinting like polished obsidian, confident, cruel, and amused. "Primitive," sneered Vorkul, his mandibles clicking with derision as he swept his infrared scanner across the terrain. "Human camouflage, this is their best?" Moss and mud. A chorus of hisses and laughs followed. Zidal, a feathered slicer from the Harkeen worlds, crouched beside a footprint pressed into the soft earth. They still think dirt makes them invisible, like children playing war. He stood and waved the others. He's moving south, slowly, probably dragging a busted leg. Shall we make it sporting? Sporting, chuckled Jorwin, the thick-shell brute from the Deneb Corps. We've already killed 5 of them. This one's just a runt that ran. The group moved as a unit, casual yet precise, their confidence unshakable. Each assassin was an apex predator in their own right, trained and enhanced across galaxies to neutralize any species. They didn't just kill, they humiliated. And they enjoyed it. They had come to Drexus, 9 on contract from the Cordari Combine, a coalition of species increasingly alarmed by humanity's unpredictable skirmishes along the galactic frontier. A forward recon team of humans had landed here weeks ago. 7 in total. Now, only 1 remained. Vorkul activated his visor's linguistic suite. "I almost feel sorry for him," he said in low galactic standard. "They send animals into the jungle and expect gods to bleed. Maybe he's watching us now," Zidal teased, spreading his arms wide and spinning. "Let him see what perfection looks like." The others laughed. Jorwin mimed rubbing mud over his shiny chest plate, earning another round of mocking snorts. "Look at me, I'm invisible. Fear the mighty humans and their dirt magic." They didn't realize it yet, but the forest had gone still. No clicks, no distant screeches. Even the buzzleflies, usually deafening at dusk, had disappeared. Vorkul tilted his head, antennae twitching. Silence. Jorwin paused mid-joke. "Huh." Vorkul scanned the canopy, narrowing his eyes. "Something's wrong." Zidal snorted. "Now you're buying into their ghost stories? There's nothing here but mud and a desperate monkey." But Vorkul's instincts flared. They always had. That's why he led this team, why his name commanded respect in every mercenary bar from Tarsus Prime to the Black Moons of Elketh. He raised a clenched fist. The team dropped into formation instantly, laughter extinguished. Thermals, scanners, full spectrum, sweep now. Each assassin flicked their risking souls into high alert, visors humming as spectrographs painted the terrain in layered colors. The jungle unfolded like an anatomical diagram, but showed nothing. No heartbeats, no trails, no heat spikes. Just trees and shadows. "Still nothing," muttered Jorwin, unease creeping into his voice. "He's here," Vorkul said. "How do you know?" Zidal asked, suddenly still. "Because this is the first time we're being hunted." For a moment, they said nothing. The wind rustled something high above, but no one moved. Then, a static crackle on their shared comms. Brief. A whisper. "Watching." "What was that?" Jorwin snapped, spinning toward the sound. "Comm interference?" Zidal suggested, though his tone betrayed uncertainty. Vorkul's fingers tightened around his pulse rifle. "No, it was him." Jorwin grunted. "Let him whisper. I'll find a little." A sharp crack tore through the air. It was not the high-pitched whine of plasma fire, nor the mechanical cough of railgun discharge. This was ancient, primal, a supersonic snap that came after the damage had already been done. Jorwin staggered backward, a clean hole between his ocular plates. He fell without sound, his massive form collapsing like a felled tree, dead before his body hit the dirt. Blood steamed on his armor. Zidal screamed, leaping for cover, claws extended, eyes wide with panic. "Sniper, get to cover." "Where?" Vorkul barked, dropping behind a fungus-covered boulder. "Direction? I didn't see it. I didn't see a thing. Another shot echoed, but this one hit nothing. A warning? A misfire? No, a message. Vorkul cursed and switched his visor to strobe filter, scanning for optical distortion, gravitational flux, even old-school trajectory paths. Still nothing. How was he hiding? Zital's voice trembled. How? Vorkul didn't answer. He was already thinking 4 moves ahead. This wasn't just a human. This was a sniper, a professional. Someone trained to stalk the best the galaxy had to offer and kill them without ever being seen. He remembered a dossier from years ago, a whisper in a classified report. Night Sniper, code name used for a breed of human ghosts trained to fight in pure darkness, using tech the galaxy considered obsolete and minds sharper than any algorithm. 1 shot, 1 ghost. Vorkul had laughed at the myth. But myths don't leave corpses. Fall back to the trees, Vorkul commanded. Form a triangulated scan grid. We flush him out or we die here. Zital bolted for a gnarled root cluster, wings twitching nervously. Vorkul waited 3 seconds, eyes scanning for movement, sound, anything. Then he moved. Behind them, a faint voice crackled again across the comms. This time, clearer. 1 down. Zital spun, firing blindly into the trees. His plasma bolt sizzled against bark and vines, but nothing screamed. Nothing bled. Vorkul's blood ran cold. This wasn't a broken, frightened animal clinging to life. This was a predator, and he was laughing at them now. The jungle held its breath. Sergeant Reyes lay prone beneath the tangled roots of a firevine tree, his heartbeat steady, his breath controlled, his finger resting lightly on the trigger of an ancient bolt-action rifle retrofitted with kinetic dampeners and a subharmonic silencer. It was not sleek. It was not glowing. It was not designed by a council of alien engineers. It was designed by necessity. His camouflage wasn't high-tech, either. It was a patchwork of matte black paint, mud, local pollen dust, and pieces of Drexus 9's own foliage. Where the assassins relied on algorithmic invisibility, Reyes relied on stillness. Where they used multispectral cloaks, he used shadows. And where they trusted sensors, he trusted instinct. Through the scope, he watched Zital scramble into cover, wings twitching like a nervous bird. Reyes exhaled slowly, calculating the wind drift, range, and movement all in one breath. Not yet. Not him. Not now. He shifted his aim, slower than the blink of an eye. There, 30 meters off, a shimmer in the foliage. Optical camo, barely perceptible. Another assassin, one who hadn't spoken yet. Quiet, careful, smart. Rays like the smart ones. They usually died second. The crosshair met the center of the shimmer, a trick of light betraying the assassin's position. Rays squeezed the trigger, and the rifle kicked silently. The bullet pierced the shimmer, and for half a second, nothing moved. Then, the distortion crumpled like a dying star. A thud, a sharp, wet exhale. Dead. 2. Rays rolled to his left, vanishing deeper into the forest. He didn't wait to confirm the kill. He didn't need to. 17 years in Black Ops Ghost training had honed his senses beyond reliance on equipment. In the Human Defense Corps, they called his class Night Snipers. But that term didn't do justice to the decades of terror they inflicted on enemy species. He was the last of his team. The other 6 had been picked off by those monsters in the opening days of his botched recon operations, had watched through his scope as his squad fell one by one, learning the assassins' patterns, cataloging their arrogance. He'd moved away from the initial zone, drawing them toward him, letting them think they were the hunters. Now they were bleeding, confused, spooked. He crouched beneath a low, moss-draped arch of stone, checking his ammo. 3 rounds left. He could work with that. He always did. The rest of his arsenal consisted of a ceramic blade, a thermal masking poncho, and his old dog tags, scratched, blackened, worn thin like ancient metal coins. "Come on," he whispered to himself, eyes narrowing. "Split up. One of you always splits." The comms in his ear still pulsed with occasional static. The assassins were trying to block him out, resecure their channel. He'd piggybacked a signal through the corpse of the first one he killed, hijacking their frequency with tech barely recognized by modern scanners. It wasn't elegant, But it worked. He heard Vorkal again. Maintain formation. Scan every quadrant. Do not break contact. The edge of panic. There it was. Rays could smell it. The way prey always gave off a faint ripple of fear just before they ran. He closed his eyes and visualized the likely movements. Vorkal would move south. Zidal would flank east, too erratic to stay still. The third, if there was a third left, would try to outthink him. Ray smiled. He moved like wind through a clearing, never leaving a footprint, never brushing a leaf. He stopped behind a fallen log and listened. A soft scrape. Zidal! Ray pressed his cheek to the dirt and peered over the log. The assassin fluttered nervously from one tree to another, talons twitching, posture rigid. Every few seconds, he fired a burst into the darkness, shouting curses in his native tongue. He was unraveling. This time, Ray didn't use a rifle. He didn't need to. He slid forward, 1 inch at a time, until he was within 10 meters. Close enough to smell the ozone of the alien's weapon, close enough to hear the huffing of his breath. He unsheathed the ceramic blade and waited for the right moment. Zidal turned. Too slow. Ray surged upward, silent as a myth, and drove the blade up beneath the assassin's jaw. A muffled shriek, a spasm, then stillness. He lowered the twitching body to the ground like a parent putting a child to sleep. 3. The forest was quiet again. He pulled back, melting into the dark, leaving the corpse to be found, or not. It didn't matter. Every death now was psychological warfare. He didn't just want to kill them. He wanted to make them doubt, to make them question every step, every sound, every shadow. This wasn't vengeance. It wasn't even war. It was theater. He circled the ridge, keeping low, keeping patient. He needed eyes on Vorkal. The leader wouldn't panic. Not outwardly, but there would be cracks. Rays just had to find one and widen it. The comms flared again. Vorkal's voice, low, guttural, angry. Identify status. Report immediately. Silence. Then a pulse of motion from the north. Vorkal had activated his visor's tactical beacon, a desperate measure. It illuminated him briefly as he scanned the area, searching for any trace of his squad. Rays spotted him through the scope. 50 meters. Moving slow, weapon ready, scanning high. Wrong direction. He exhaled, letting the pressure ease from his limbs. The crosshair lined up again. Another breath, but he didn't fire. Not yet. Vorkal turned toward the trees, muttering something to himself in his native tongue. Rays couldn't translate it, but he didn't need to. He heard fear in it. He switched off the rifle scope and sat in the darkness, legs crossed, heartbeat calm. I see you, he said softly into the open comm channel. Vorkal froze. Silence followed, then a whisper back. Who are you? Ray stared into the dark jungle, eyes unblinking. Just the last mistake you'll ever make. He clicked the channel off and began circling again, silent and invisible. The hunt wasn't over, but it had turned. The rain began in soft, needling threads, cool against the oppressive heat of Drexus 9. It slicked the bark, darkened the leaves, and painted the dead with shine that made their still forms look freshly killed. To Rays, it was a gift from the planet itself. The rain would mask his scent, his sound, his heat signature, and it would make Vorkal desperate. The last assassin was no fool. Rays knew that. Vorkal had discipline, intuition, and a body engineered for resilience. But something inside the alien was cracking, and Rays had learned to feel those fractures like tremors beneath his feet. No assassin operated perfectly once the roles of predator and prey reversed, especially not when they were alone. Rays moved with deliberate slowness now, not out of caution, but out of precision. The final kill wasn't about speed. It was about message. Each step brought him closer to the culmination of a game Vorkal had thought he controlled. Now, the jungle was Ray's theater, and every raindrop was applause. He crouched beneath a hanging root web and paused. Ahead, through the veil of mist, a flicker of light shimmered. Irregular, flickering, not natural. Vorkal had deployed a beacon drone, likely low orbit, scanning for movement in the upper canopy. Smart, Rays murmured, adjusting his path. He'd scouted the terrain for days before the initial ambush. His memory of it was perfect. Every outcropping, every hollow tree, every natural sound channel. If Vorkul had data, Ray's had intimacy. That made all the difference. Another flicker, then static in his calm, a different voice this time. You're human, but not like the others. It was Vorkul. You're something else. Ray's didn't respond. He adjusted the bolt on his rifle, feeling the smooth motion of a weapon that had never failed him. The rain slicked the stock, but his grip never wavered. He tilted his head, listening. I studied your kind, Vorkul continued, voice steady now, almost curious. The species is erratic, wild, but you're precise. Cold, you fight like one of us. Ray smiled faintly. You're wrong, he finally replied, keeping his tone even. You don't understand what we are. Not really. I understand you kill well. No, Ray said, beginning to move again. We survive well. Killing is just part of that. A pause. I underestimated you. I counted on that. Silence returned, broken only by the rhythmic patter of rain and the low growl of distant thunder. Ray shifted his route again, closing the arc. Vorkul's voice was coming from a fixed location. That meant he was holding his ground, maybe fortifying, maybe waiting. Good. That made him predictable. Ray slipped through a thicket of needle brush, his skin brushing past stingers without reaction. Pain meant nothing in this kind of moment. It was just information. He ascended a narrow ridge and paused near the top, flattening against a blackstone shelf. Below, hidden in a natural alcove, was the source of the shimmer. Vorkul knelt near a glowing projection console, rain sliding over his armor, one hand resting on the hilt of a plasma axe. His visor was deactivated, resting against a nearby rock, a sign of intent. He wanted to see death with his own eyes. Or perhaps he hoped for dialogue. You know I won't run, Vorkul said, not looking up. You could kill me from there, but you haven't. I'm thinking, Ray's answered. Vorkul chuckled, a strange metallic sound. About what? Whether I want you to see it coming. Vorkul turned, slowly, meeting the gaze of the dark figure above him. He saw the mud-streaked face, the cold eyes, the rifle balanced with reverence. And for the first time since landing on this world, he showed something close to respect. You really are the last one, aren't you? Ray's nodded once. I didn't think one human could do all this, Vorkul admitted. I thought your kind were chaotic. Weak. That's the difference, Ray said, taking a slow step down the ridge. You think strength is in numbers. We learn strength in loss. Vorkul stood, slowly, not as a threat, but as an equal. He let the plasma axe fall to the ground, powered off. His posture changed. Less a warrior ready to strike, more a soldier ready to understand. This war between our kinds, he said, voice low, it won't end here. It never does. Then why keep fighting? Ray's didn't answer immediately. He stepped into the clearing, just 10 meters away now, rifle still held steady, but not raised. His voice, when it came, was calm. Because one day, someone like you is going to come after someone like me and not stop, no matter the cost. And if we ever forget how to fight, that we stop being human. Vorkul exhaled, slowly. So this is it, then? Ray's nodded. He didn't raise his weapon. He didn't have to. A shadow detached itself from the tree line behind Vorkul, silent as breath. A secondary presence. One last contingency. A decoy drone Ray's had programmed days ago, mimicking his own heat pattern. Creeping slowly through the foliage, Vorkul turned too late. A flash. Non-lethal. Sonic. The assassin collapsed, disoriented, conscious but neutralized. Ray strode forward and pressed a thin metal spike against Vorkul's temple. Sleep. A jolt of electricity. Vorkul's limbs twitched once. Then he went still. Ray stared at him for a moment. Killing you would be easy, he whispered, but that wouldn't teach them anything. He looked up toward the sky, where the beacon drone still blinked like a single angry eye. He activated his own emergency transponder, deep frequency, only human channels. A pickup would come. Eventually, the rain was slowing. The forest began to hum again. But Reyes didn't relax. He crouched beside the unconscious assassin, eyes on the jungle, senses tuned. The mission wasn't over yet, and he didn't believe in peace. The extraction ship descended in silence, its matte black hull gliding through the low cloud layer like a phantom. The engines purred with suppressed power, disrupting the stillness only enough to scatter the birds roosting in the canopy above. Ray stood motionless in the clearing below, the jungle steaming around him. The air smelled of ozone, wet bark, and victory. The vessel's ramp hissed open, revealing two armored figures who stepped out with precision, rifles up, visors glowing faint blue. They paused when they spotted him, mud-streaked, blood-smeared, cloak hanging in tatters, and the unconscious body of the alien assassin at his feet. Reyes, standing like a carved idol of war, didn't speak. The taller of the two soldiers lowered his rifle first. "Sergeant Reyes," he said with a nod, "we thought you were dead. You weren't the only ones." The second soldier, a tech specialist judging by the equipment strapped to his chest, stepped forward cautiously and scanned the body on the ground. "Vorkul," he said after a beat. "Confirmed match. You took him alive?" "Intentional," Reyes said flatly. "He's worth more to Fleet Command breathing than burnt. That's a first." "Not a pattern," Reyes added. "A message." He stepped back as they secured the unconscious assassin in a reinforced stasis pod. The pod hummed as it sealed, light shifting from red to green. Reyes finally moved toward the ship, each step heavy but deliberate, his boots leaving imprints in the sodden earth. Inside the ship, the temperature dropped instantly, and the artificial air made his skin crawl. It was too clean, too far removed from the primal brutality of Drexus 9. He took a seat on the fold-down bench beside the viewport, removed his rifle, and placed it with quiet care across his lap. His eyes flicked up, catching the distorted reflection of himself in the steel wall across from him, tired, gaunt, eyes sharp as blades. As the ship lifted off, a low chime echoed through the chamber. The voice that followed was calm, mechanical. "Secure link established. Command transmission incoming." Reyes closed his eyes briefly. The voice that came next belonged to Admiral Thorne. "Sergeant," she said, "congratulations on survival. We receive your final log. Mission success confirmed. Debrief will begin once you reach orbit." "Understood. You disobeyed a recall directive." "I did." "Explain." Reyes opened his eyes and stared out the viewport. The jungle below was shrinking, slowly consumed by mist. Because retreat would have proved them right. Elaborate. "They sent assassins," Reyes said slowly. "Not soldiers. Not diplomats. Not machines. They wanted to study our fear. Test whether we break under pressure. Whether we still had fight in us." "And your conclusion?" I gave him an answer. There was a long pause. The Admiral, for all her clipped professionalism, knew when not to press. "Vorkul's survival intentional?" "Yes. Let them interrogate him. Tear apart his mind, his memories. But make sure they don't ignore the lesson. He's dangerous." "So am I." Thorne exhaled faintly. "Fleet Intelligence has requested your immediate presence post-quarantine. You'll be transported to Black Vault Command." "Of course. Med Bay is standing by." "I don't need it. You haven't slept in 10 days, Sergeant." "I'll sleep when I'm irrelevant." The channel cut. The silence that followed was somehow heavier than the one outside. Reyes leaned back and let the vibration of the engines hum through his spine. He stared across the room at the stasis pod. Through its transparent shell, Vorkul floated. Motionless, unconscious, his armor stripped, his breathing regulated by the pod's internal systems. Without his weapons, without the menace of presence, he looked less like a legend and more like what he truly was. A soldier sent to probe the heart of a species they didn't yet understand. Reyes stood and walked over. He stared for a while, arms crossed, then spoke softly. "You'll wake up in a steel room. Fluorescent lights. Cold metal chairs. You'll be strapped down while men in gray uniforms ask you questions you don't want to answer. And you'll lie. You'll withhold. But something will change." His reflection in the glass blurred slightly with the subtle rocking of the ship. "You'll remember that I had the shot. That I could have ended you, but I didn't. And it'll gnaw at you, because you'll start to wonder why. Not for mercy, not for leverage, but because I wanted you to see. He reached out and tapped the glass once, gently. You'll be the message now. The hum of the engines grew as they pierced through the upper atmosphere. Clouds gave way to stars. The void opened up ahead, vast and indifferent. Yet Ray stood firm, hands clasped behind his back. To the galaxy, humanity was still the unpredictable variable, not the strongest, not the fastest, not the most advanced, but somehow still standing. He closed his eyes again. He saw the faces of those lost on Drexus 9, the scouts, the medics, the colonists who never got a chance. Their deaths weren't data points. They were fuel, memory, purpose. Behind him, the pod lights blinked steadily. Green, stable, alive. The ship banked toward the orbiting flagship, and the stars above shimmered like distant gunfire frozen in time. The war wasn't over, but the rules had changed.